Hello everybody, it's the Lawn Gnome. Welcome back to another DCU update over here on my channel. If you're new, let me just say welcome. It is a pleasure to have you. And for those of you who are returning, I'm hoping that you're excited for this new episode. This was something that I didn't know was actually going to be happening in 2023. I knew it was going to happen, but this was something that just snuck up out of nowhere. As a matter of fact, I was talking with my fellow That's Comical colleague Cammy about setting up a day for our recording of our DC Animated Universe live show, only to find out that the day before we were supposed to go live, Halloween was going to be the release of Justice League RWBY Heroes and Huntsmen Part 2. So I basically said to her, listen, we can't do this, we gotta wait for the entire year to be over, and here we are. We still haven't recorded that live show yet, but we're going to. But anyway, this is the follow-up to the first part, which came out earlier this year in the early summer, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but if you recall the video, and there will be a link to it in the box below, I said that this movie, for me personally, was a fun and enjoyable film, but it was also because of the fact that I came into this movie with a lot of knowledge of Rooster Teeth's masterful work of RWBY. And the truth of the matter is, you really do need to come into this now two-part film story with RWBY knowledge to truly appreciate and understand everything on the RWBY side of things. The Justice League side is pretty much a given. If you know Justice League, you know Justice League, but RWBY is its own animal, and there is now officially 9 seasons worth of this digital animated show. So, following up from the first part, all of a sudden, after both groups of people have woken up from this apparent dream sequence that Kilgore put them into, the Justice League are suddenly noticing that all over their world, there's suddenly Grimm running all over the place. They're in Metropolis, they're in Gotham City, they're everywhere, and they're having a real difficult time with them. So they believe that the only way to defeat them is to try and find RWBY and get them all into their dimension to help them fight the Grimm. So, of course, they find them. Much like in the first part when the Justice League goes through a change, Team RWBY goes through a change, and it is really cool to see these two sides follow up with each other, to see who got along with who, what relationships were formed, but of course there is a matter at hand, because at the end of the first part, we saw that Team RWBY realized it wasn't just Kilgore that was the main baddie at putting these two groups of people into this dream sequence. So throughout this film, you see the two sides teaming up again to stop the Grimm and find out who the other threatening foe is. So, much like the first one, it's enjoyable. It's got the RWBY animation, which makes it very, very unique and stand out. And again, unless you are a diehard RWBY fan, it's not something that you're totally going to understand. There's a lot of references in this second part as well, based on the RWBY show. So, I guess this is sort of an advertisement for people to say, hey, if you've never seen RWBY before, you can go watch it on roosterteeth.com. At this point in time, you can actually watch those older episodes for free, I believe, and there's even cheap DVD boxes that you can get of all of the seasons. But as a RWBY fan and a Justice League fan, I personally got everything and understood everything and enjoyed everything. But is it the best film out there? No, not necessarily. It was definitely something that I did not anticipate coming out from the DC Animated Movie Library, but it was pretty cool to actually see something like this show up. And now that the story is very much complete, as a Justice League fan and a RWBY fan, I would say that I'm very much satisfied. So, Justice League RWBY, Heroes and Huntsmen Part 2, not the greatest film in the world, but definitely not the worst. I had a good time with it. So, that's it everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below. Let's discuss this part, or the first part of Justice League RWBY, Heroes and Huntsmen. And that pretty much concludes another year of DCU updates. I'm really glad that this show is still continuing on, because there's very little content coming up on my channel these days. I don't really know what's going to be going on in the next couple of years ahead, but I know for a solid fact that I will be back next year, because we've got some very interesting projects in the works from the world of DC Universe original movies and DC animated movies. So in the meantime, everybody, I will see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.